buy it because I had to buy the camera.
Really?
Yeah.
All right, let's do this. What are we doing?
Just sit and listen.
Okay.
All right. You good? We're good. All right. Hello, my name is Alex Pustinger, and my speech today is on the desensitization of youth. Okay. First thing I'm going to do is some pretty basic concepts, and it's the increase in violence being seen in the youth today. Video games, movies, social media, and special effects, all of which can play a role in desensitizing children. First are a couple of studies that I researched. The first one is by Woods, and the study was through visual stimuli, which it showed that in 16 out of 23 cases, after viewing violent things, they were more susceptible and had an increased aggression for spontaneous reasons, which would be like they would just all of a sudden have an angry outburst. The next study was by Kunkel, and it was a television study that showed widespread odds are better than 50% chance to turning on a television and finding a channel that had violence on it. While the violence that was actually portrayed on this, though, it was either glamorized or sanitized, and by that I mean glamorized was role models. People who would be looked on as a role model would be doing something violent, whether it's like a heroic act or something, or sanitized where it would just have an unrealistic outcome to it, where somebody who would get shot would just be able to get up and walk away with it, where in real life it wouldn't actually occur like that. I'm going to talk about movies and the effects that they play on kids, and today's society especially, there's a lot more blood and gore in their movies, which really relates to how it was in the past, where past horror films and even just action movies where the blood was just so unrealistic that it didn't really affect children the way it does today, where they see it now and it gets to the point where blood no longer phases them. Along with that, I mean, Wes Craven, who's a well-known director in the horror film industry, actually went as far as having a line put into one of his movies where the main character tells you that teens today are just desensitized to violence and blood and gore, that the modes and methods needed to use to scare them is just so much greatly increased. And at the same time, action films are the same way, where the comical explosions that used to be used, now it's real big and bright, and it really has to draw your attention to be able to make a difference and to keep you focused in the movies. The next thing is social media plays a huge role in this through postings and videos, or postings of videos and photos and different sayings. It's even being used as a recruitment tactic for gangs, where they're posting their videos and trying to get kids involved with them. The one case was actually in Kansas, where teens were doing beatings in zoos and just randomly in public, and then posting them to try to threaten kids to get into their gang so that it wouldn't happen to them, which brings into consideration that parents really don't have the control that they have. I mean, growing up, they had more control because they were on a level surface, whereas now kids are so much more into technology that they find ways around all the blocks and all the bans, and they find access to websites. And I have a website on here that actually I wouldn't recommend you go to, but it was a website called Faces of Death. And I mean, I remember looking at this stuff as a kid, where it was like, you see people getting blown up, you see people getting shot, you see people getting mutilated. I mean, it's just a horrific sight that even kids today still have access to, and it just makes it so that they don't see a difference between real life and that it becomes second nature to them to see it, and it doesn't faze them. The next thing is future technology, and I mean, imagine what we have now times 10. It's just the stuff that we do now is still growing in video games and movies. It's all going to get to the point where it's in your mind, and you're not going to know the difference between real life and your virtual experience, and it's going to make it harder to control your urges, and it gives you endless possibilities of things that can happen, where you you think you're in one place where you're really not, and it makes it difficult. Things that you can do to help try to avoid this is help the children and teens are our future, and we need to learn ways to protect them and shelter them from this. And it's not cutting this out completely, because they're still going to need to realize that bad things happen and what they look like, but they should be more aware and feel more about it than they are now, where it's just everyday life, where they're used to seeing it in video games and they're used to experiencing it in movies and being exposed to it. So along with that, you need to be exposed them to like positive stimuli and what actually occurs, and you need to help them and others so that you can prevent this desensitization, because it's getting to the point where you're having more shootings and you're having more stabbings and all these criminal acts that we weren't having in mass numbers. So really it comes down to save ourselves from ourselves and help the human race become a safer place through realizing that there's more to life than just the guts and the gore, and becoming so used to seeing it that it's a part of everyday life, where life should be more meaningful and you should have a better experience with it. Thank you.